guys, it's Ashley. Welcome back to my channel. As you can see by the title of today's video, today I'm going to be seeing the new Strangers movie, The Strangers Chapter 1. And of course, I'm going to be reviewing it later in this video. Me and Dalton are going to be reviewing it together. But I just thought that I would take you guys along with us to the theater. Make this video a little bit more like a vlog, a little bit more personable. So not too much of a change, but maybe just a little bit more fun. But yeah, The Strangers Chapter 1. After their car breaks down in an eerie small town, a young couple are forced to spend the night in a remote cabin. Panic ensues as they are terrorized by three masked strangers who strike with no mercy and seemingly no motive. And this film stars Madeline Pesh and Froy Gutierrez and is directed by Renny Harlin, which I am not familiar with Renny Harlin's films, but I do know that he directed A Nightmare on Elm Street Part 4 Dream Masters, so hell yeah. And if you watched my recent review of the original Strangers from 2008, you would know that I mentioned in that video that I am a little hesitant for this film and this whole new trilogy in general. I don't think the trailer looked that good. Like I said in that video, it looked very CW, very tame and kind of generic and just not as dark as that original movie was. But, you know, of course, I hope I'm wrong. You know, I want these films to do well. I'm just so curious what the tone is going to be like, because I don't think it's going to be as dark as the original. I wonder if it's going to be kind of more like Prey at Night. And I am not expecting to be blown away. I just hope that I am entertained and that I'm able to have at least a little bit of fun. Like, I feel like the worst thing it could be is just boring. Just want to have a good time. But with that being said, I'm going in with pretty low expectations, so we'll see. Come along with Dalton and I. We're going to an 8:15 showing at the Draft House tonight. We're gonna meet my sister there, so it's gonna be a fun time regardless. But yeah, let's get going. Let's go watch The Strangers Chapter 1. So we just got back, like not even 15 minutes ago, from seeing The Strangers Chapter 1. So, okay, the first part of this review will be spoiler free, and then we'll talk spoilers a little bit at the end. I'll give you a warning so that you can click off if you haven't seen the film yet, even though there's really not too much to spoil for this one, but just in case. Okay, first off, how the hell was this a prequel?
I have no idea.
Maybe I misunderstood something, but I guess this could technically be, this isn't a spoiler or anything, but I guess this could technically be a contemporary prequel to the original Strangers, kind of like a Bates Motel situation, because there's no way that this film takes place for 2005, which was the year that the original Strangers was supposed to take place in. There's just no way.
Yeah.
This feels like it takes place in 2024.
Yeah, definitely.
So don't know what that's all about. But yeah, getting into the film, I did mention earlier before we went to see this that the worst thing this film could possibly be is boring. And while I do think boring is kind of a harsh word to describe it, it did kind of lose me a little bit in some spots. Like, this film is very cat and mouse heavy, almost too much. And, you know, people argued that in the original there wasn't a lot going on in that one, but it never felt slow or boring to me. I was always very engaged. With this one, it just kind of lost me a couple times. Like, it was just a little too slow. It was losing me a little bit. With that being said, I wouldn't really describe it as boring, but nowhere near as engaging as the original was, in my opinion.
The whole movie was just really predictable and
Extremely predictable.
This movie, like, I went into it pretty low expectations, and I watched the trailer and I thought the trailer looked really bad. And then, you know, we started watching the movie and I was like, this is gonna be bad. And then as we watched it, I actually realized that it's really bad and terrible, actually. I think I read the director saying that like the trilogy was shot in like 52 days or something like that, and like that makes sense. Felt very rushed. Like, same with the acting, felt very rushed and just.
With this being a remake, you can kind of predict pretty much everything that's going to happen. This film pays homage to the original in a lot of ways that are just not as well done as they were in the original. And if you've seen the original, you know exactly what those are. I would assume that if you hadn't seen The Strangers before and then you watch this, that you would probably, I guess, be a little bit more entertained or just surprised by some of the stuff that happens. But if you've seen the original Strangers, pretty much nothing is a surprise. There was maybe one scare that was a little bit different, a little bit, hi Willow, hi Beaver. There was one scare that was pretty good that wasn't in the original, so there's that. But even down to the scares, they're all very reminiscent of the original and just aren't done as well as the original. So it just kind of feels like, okay, I may as well just be watching the original.
Yeah, like pretty much 90% of the scares are just really loud sound effects or music getting really loud.
Yeah.
So it's pretty cheap in that sense. The original kind of felt like an indie sort of like short film turned into a feature film. And that's what was so great about it. It was like super raw and it felt very real, like every step of the way. And that's why it was so creepy. Like the entire scenario kind of felt like you're listening to like some YouTube video on like horror stories or something went wrong. Like it felt like that. It was like a real horror story that somebody could tell. Yeah, in the original, The Strangers, it felt like so real. It felt like someone who was really demented, or three people who were really demented and, you know, had this sort of like cult that was going on and just terrorizing people. And this one, though, it didn't really feel like that. Like, they showed too much of the strangers, which in the original, you really don't see them a lot. You mostly see the main actors' performances, you know, dealing with them, but you don't see them all the time. Whereas in this one, they just keep showing them, and it takes away any mystery from them. And there's a few things that they do, like, in it that are just kind of awkward and fumbly, and it's just like, okay, it takes it out of it. And I think that if it was done in a better way, like if it was done more like the original, some of those things that are awkward could actually be creepier. Like they could pay off more because they seem more real. But it wasn't in this. It just felt like it took you out of it. And you're no longer even scared. I even feel like towards the end, I was like rooting for the strangers. It was no longer like trying to see that cliche, you know, last person standing or whatever. It was like, okay, just kill these characters because they're like terrible. I think the characters were just awful, but.
Yeah, so talking a little bit more about the strangers themselves. Maybe it was just me, but like, they were not scary in this movie. Like, they were kind of goofy. And I swear, maybe I'm just dumb as a bag of rocks, but I swear up until maybe the last scene where they're all kind of standing there and that, you know, that iconic shot, and of course I should have known this, I could have sworn that there were only two strangers because Pinup and Dollface, I could not distinguish between the two. Like, they were dressed too much alike, their masks looked too much alike, and I was getting confused. I was like, there's supposed to be three strangers, but I only see two. Well, No, there are 3. I think my brain, like,
No,
I was confused. It's probably my fault, but also
No, I felt like that too. I
it
thought
was a little weird.
I thought that they hadn't introduced the third one, but looking
Yeah.
back on it, I think they had, and I just thought it was the second one. But
it's not really a spoiler. It's just
yeah.
my own dumb
Well,
not being able to realize that there were 3 the whole time.
Yeah, I think that part of that, yeah, makes perfect sense because they could have paid attention to detail and like cast, like someone with blonde hair versus brunette, like because the masks are similar, but
like in the original, Dollface has long blonde hair, and that's why I can tell the difference between Dollface and Pinup, because Pinup has short black hair, Dollface has long blonde hair. I might be getting those mixed up, but
yeah.
Anyways,
that kind of thing seems really small, but it's when you lack those, that just goes to show like no attention to detail and just like rushed
and kind of lazy. Excuse me, she just moved the microphone. So, but also, while we're still on the subject of the strangers themselves, who dressed these people? Who dressed these people? In the original, Baghead, I'll just call him Baghead, he's wearing this brown, I think it's like a velvet suit jacket and tie. In this one, he's just wearing like some kind of green jacket, and I hate it. Little things like that probably don't matter. What matters is like the mask, which of course that mask is always going to be really creepy in my opinion, but like, I don't know. There was just something so creepy about that suit, that jacket that he's got on in the original that I missed.
Yeah, like on that note, the suit jacket versus the more like rustic whatever look. If you look at there's a short film called The Smiling Man on YouTube. It's really good short film and very creepy. And the original reminds me of that because like The Smiling Man, it's very simple, and it's just the creepiness comes from just like this random dude that's smiling with this like suit on. One of the creepiest things that I feel like I've ever seen was that like Radiohead music video.
I'll insert a clip.
Yeah.
You guys probably have seen it.
The Radiohead music video where it's like he stumbles upon a bunch of people in suits and it looks like found footage or whatever, and it's just like so simple and so creepy because like it feels like real. It feels like you stumble upon some cult. And that's like the original felt like that. It had that sort of feeling where it was like this is like a real creepy cult or something. And then the new one's just kind of like you took honestly, it's kind of like you took a kid and you asked them like, what do killers look like? And then they're like, oh, okay. And then they drew them like that, where it's just like so obvious.
I agree. Also, I took notes in the dark in the theater on like a order card, like Alamo Drafthouse order card. The movie is still fresh in my mind, but I'm just somebody who has to take notes, otherwise I will forget. But basically, just to continue non-spoiler stuff, I thought the acting based on just the trailer was gonna be pretty bad. I actually didn't think the acting from the 2 leads was bad, like at all. Like I think the main actress, Madeline Pesh is her name. I actually think that she's a pretty good actress. Like she felt believable. I still prefer Liv Tyler and Scott Speedman, not just as actors, but just the character dynamic from the original, like how there was kind of that tension between the two and their relationship, whereas in this one, they're just kind of like a happy couple from the beginning, which is fine.
In the original, the entire theme among the original is just dread. Like the second that it starts, it's just dread. Like from the situation that they're in, you can like put yourself in their shoes, like immediately out of the gates, and you empathize with them. And it's kind of the opposite for this one. The lady actress, I think that she was really good. I think the guy wasn't so great, but I can't blame it entirely on the acting for him. Like I think his part was just so weak. Like it was just so incredibly, there was like some character in the original guy and you might like be annoyed at that guy for multiple reasons, but like it felt like a real couple and kind of like a real couple dynamic. And this one, it just felt like the guy was just so, it felt like a one-dimensional, not to say that word, film student word.
What?
One-dimensional, it's just like classic kind of word. But
I don't care.
anyways, his character,
I did go to film school.
I know. Yeah, one-dimensional is like the right term for it, because he's so flat and bland, and just like I said, I felt like I was rooting for them to kill him. Like by the end of it, like.
Yeah, the thing with this film, I think at the end of it is just they were going for that dread. They were trying to capture that dread that the original had, and unfortunately, it just wasn't successful. All the times that I was actually scared watching this film was just in anticipation for like a jump scare. And that to me is just not the same. It's not as effective. Like, of course I'm gonna be on the edge of my seat because I'm expecting, a jump scare. That's just not the same feeling of dread that I really wanted to feel watching this. This film had just like surface level dread. It never felt like it went there like the original did.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think the entire movie just felt, like dreadful, because
the original felt so mean.
Yeah.
It felt really mean. This didn't feel mean. It just felt like it was neither mean nor fun, like The Strangers Prey at Night, which in my opinion is a much better sequel to The Strangers than this one was. At least that one was fun to watch and engaging throughout, even if the tone was drastically different than the original. This one just felt like in between the original and Prey at Night in terms of tone, and it fell flat, honestly. So yeah, if you're watching this review and you still haven't seen the film and you don't want to be spoiled, I'll just end it, I guess, with there's always a chance that you will like this. Just because it didn't like land for us does not mean you won't enjoy it. I always say, like, give it at least a chance. Like, everything is worth watching at least once just to see if you like it, because we all have different tastes. So it's worth watching at least once. I do recommend seeing it in the theater. You'll probably have the best experience seeing it in the theater. Although, if you ask me, this probably could have been straight to streaming. It kind of felt straight to streaming, but if you have the chance to see it in theater, you may as well. It's a decent popcorn movie, and I don't think it'll be a waste of money seeing it in theaters or anything. So that's where we'll end the non-spoiler part, and there's really not much to spoil here, but I don't want to accidentally spoil something for somebody, so proceed with caution if you haven't seen the film for this last part, okay? So this goes back to like the similarities between the original and this one. It was when the boyfriend comes back after Maya is the character's name. She sees, I don't know if it's Pinup or Dollface at this point. She sees one of them in the closet, and then the boyfriend comes back, and I was like, okay, are they gonna do the Scott Speedman thing from the original where he's just immediately not gonna believe her? Because that always kind of took me off a bit about him in the original, was how he was just like, Kristen, there's no one there, Kristen, and it has to take him actually seeing this, like, the stranger for himself to actually believe her that somebody was in the house. And I thought they were gonna do that with this guy, and they kind of did, but it made a little bit more sense because he was like, have you been smoking weed? Because she had been. So it felt a little bit more, I guess, like justified him being a little bit hesitant to believe her, because usually that pisses me off when a character doesn't believe another character for whatever reason, but it was fine. They were able to get away with it, I think, a little bit better in this one. The creepy moment that I mentioned earlier, the one that I actually think was pretty effective, is when Maya hears the stranger singing the lullaby, I think it's Rockabye Baby. That actually really creeped me out. That was a really good little creepy moment, I think, personally.
Honestly, I thought that moment was pretty cringy. It just felt like they're just trying really hard to be creepy. That's like the go-to, you know, like creepy thing is you're in the dark and then someone starts singing like a lullaby.
Well, I think it scared me because like I wasn't expecting it. At that point, I already kind of like caught on that all the scares are gonna be the same. I don't know. It was a little creepy moment that I dug it.
I think it happened twice, and I think the first time when it was introduced, it was more creepy. I still think that it was kind of took me out.
She sings again later.
Then she sings it again later, and it's like, all right,
and
you're
it's like,
overdoing it now. Now it just feels
I don't care
like
now.
not creepy at all.
And of course, the ending. The ending is it's pretty much a carbon copy, but just less good. I've already mentioned how they changed the line from because you were home to because you were here. I don't like that. I know it's technically the same thing. I just don't like it. It doesn't sound as cool. It doesn't sound as creepy in my opinion, but whatever.
I find it interesting that they because I was thinking about that more later, and I was thinking like, okay, maybe they changed it because of the location. Like it doesn't make sense like because you were home. Because before it was like, you know, felt like in a neighborhood, and
they were still isolated, but yeah, they were, I guess,
yeah.
more like in a neighborhood. Whereas in this one, they're just like kind of in the middle of the woods.
Yeah,
almost.
yeah. So, but then like, it's funny that they thought if that's the reason for changing it, it's funny that they thought about that detail, but like missed so many other details of that movie.
Yeah.
But it's just so dumb to change that line because like they pretty much kept everything the exact same. The beginning was obviously different, but most of the movie was the same, and then they changed like one of the most iconic parts of the original because that's such a creepy line, because it just like implies that, you know, they just did it because you were there. They didn't have any like real reason behind it. Like it's not like they hate you or they have some sort of, in their mind, valid reason. They're just like, we're insane and you were here, so we're going to kill you. But it's just such an odd choice. But.
Oh, and we're jumping around a lot. Sorry. I actually really liked the moment where they come to and they're tied up and they know they're about to die. When he asked her to marry him, I actually thought that was a sweet moment. I like that a lot.
I'm actually gonna say that was probably the best part about the film. Like that was.
The acting was really good in that scene, I think.
The acting was good, and it was actually a really good idea. Like, it's a cool swap because you know they've been a happy couple this whole time. You know, the kind of running thing is that he hasn't asked her to marry him, and it's been, you know, they've been dating for a while, and so it's like a really sweet moment. And I actually think like. Yeah, it's probably the best part of the movie.
Yeah,
Everything else.
A real emotional scene that I think was really well done. Oh, also, I know I just talked a bunch of crap about the strangers not being scary or whatever earlier, but there's one shot that I really liked of Mr. Baghead. He's just kind of like walking through the woods with the axe, and even though I freaking hate what he's wearing, that stupid freaking jacket, he looks cool. He looks cool. And there's another pretty cool scene where the boyfriend, he kind of has one of the strangers at gunpoint, and she just kind of like is taunting him. You know, she does this weird dance that was actually pretty creepy. And at first I'm like, oh no, this is gonna be cringy, because that moment, there's a part of that moment that's in the trailer too. But I actually really liked that scene, but then it got stupid.
Yeah.
It got stupid because he talked too much.
Yeah.
He was like, what did he say? Like, you always remember your first.
Yeah.
But you're my second.
Dumb line.
And then it just gets knocked the hell out. And I don't know.
Yeah.
It was just dumb. I'm like,
It's, once again, it's like one of those moments where
God damn it.
That was one of like the biggest moments that made me want him dead.
Yeah, at that point, you're like, yeah, kill him.
You're just annoyed at him
Bye.
for that scene, you know, and it also doesn't make sense because he was like so quick to shoot somebody that wasn't, you know, and that's probably why they added that. That's so dumb. That's why they added that line, probably, is because they're like, oh, it's weird for him to do this when he just killed somebody, so let's have him say, you know, you're nervous on your first or whatever, but the second, that whole line was just so dumb. I agree for like a minute that was creepy.
It could have been a cool standoff scene, you know? I actually thought at first that it was gonna be Maya underneath the mask. Like they somehow they knocked her out and put the mask on her, but that didn't actually turn out to be it. I think that was like a theory when the trailer was first released, but that wasn't it at all.
I thought that too, and I thought that'd be funny if
could have been cool
if he ended up killing her. I thought it'd be funny if they just did the same thing twice, where he accidentally kills somebody. An innocent person.
Yeah. Well, we knew pretty much that she was gonna survive anyway. I don't even know if that's a spoiler because the director himself kind of said it in a couple of interviews already. But apparently this is Maya's story. This is her trilogy, and it's all gonna be told through her eyes. And I guess the other two are gonna focus on kind of how she deals with surviving such a traumatic incident. But yeah, there is a mid-credits scene, whatever. It's just a jump scare. It's just her getting
It's the dumbest one too, because it's the most cliche, thing where it's just oh, she's safe, and then oh, it's the bad guy again, or whatever. It's that happens in so many horror movies, and in
really
this one it just didn't make sense at all, because she's in a hospital, and then he's just laying or his face is he laying next to her?
Yeah, it's probably a dream, but I think that might honestly I think that might be paying homage to the Strangers Pray at Night, because I believe that movie ends with the main girl who survives. She's in the hospital, and she hears a knock on the hospital door.
Well, that's way better though.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely more realistic than actually having the baghead there in the freaking bed with her. Because the knock could be anyone, and it's just her PTSD.
Right.
Who is that? Oh, and also terrible end credits.
Oh,
the graphics.
The title sequence,
what is this? Have we transported back to 2009 with these end credits, with the weird graphics? I just hate it. I hate it. It's so cheesy.
Yeah.
It's so cheesy. Honestly, I feel like it could have been worse, which is why I'm gonna give it a 2.5 out of 5. So just painfully average. But I feel like it could have been worse. I feel like the acting was solid throughout. One thing that I am pretty curious about is at the beginning of the film, when they first get to this town, there's a bunch of townsfolk, and in my head I'm all right, who's the stranger? Because it's got to be one of these people. And I'm curious if we find that out in chapter 2 or chapter 3, because I did notice Richard Brake, I believe his name is. He's been in a bunch of Rob Zombie stuff. He was in Barbarian. He was in Mandy, I believe. And I think here he just has a non-speaking role. He's just sitting there in the diner. He's a cop, the sheriff or something. So I'm curious if he'll be back.
On that note, a funny way I thought that they went with it at first was when they first originally answer the door for the first time, there's just this short figure standing there, and it's a silhouette, and I thought maybe it was one of the boys, I think they're Mormon, or they look Mormon, boys that are giving out pamphlets. I thought that would be a funny twist to have them be, and then it kind of turns into funny games territory, where you just have two put together looking boys just tormenting.
It's just hilarious to me that they use those two little boys in this film for a scare,
Yeah.
Creepy. Whereas in the original, they're very innocent. They they innocently stumble upon the strangers and then the bodies. Whereas in these ones, they make them creepy. They just make them stand there freaking Damien or something, and it's just okay.
It's hilarious.
I did want to bring up something that actually made me laugh, and it was when the boyfriend tries to scare off. It's towards the beginning, I guess. The beginning of them being tormented, he tries to scare off one of them who's just standing there, the one that's coming to the door 3 times saying, "Where is Tamara home?" He goes after them, and they run off, and it is hilarious. the way this person runs off, that's when I'm like, okay, what the hell was that?
Yeah.
I couldn't hold it in.
Yeah, it is hilarious.
They literally ran off like Napoleon Dynamite.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
But then I turned to you and I was like, that was friggin' stupid. But then you said, what did you say?
I said that I kind of liked it if the rest of the movie didn't suck. Because it can actually be creepy when the movie is really creepy, and then you add just a little bit of reality to the character, like, you know, a character just kind of running off in a very like normal, not paranormal way, like they're not just appearing, not like a Michael Myers thing, but they just kind of run off, and that gives it like a little more touch of reality, but you do it too much and your characters are no longer scary.
They weren't scary in this
No,
one,
they really
in
weren't.
my opinion. Like they just weren't. The mannerisms weren't there. The first time we see Baghead in the house, this one compared to the original, that iconic shot of the Baghead behind Liv Tyler, like him just in the back in the darkness, all you see is really like the whiteness of the mask. This one, they do something very similar, but it's fine, but it's just nowhere near as cool. She's playing the piano, and you see the reflection of him kind of like in a mirror or something, like sitting behind her, and it's fine. But when that happened, I just thought of the original instantly, and I was like, damn, it's just not as good. It's just not as good, and it's never going to be as good, but...
Yeah, definitely not. And yeah, that scene was also confusing because he was like sitting in a certain chair that was in a reflection, and then they cut it and showed a different chair, and he wasn't there, and it was kind of like disorienting, and you were like, wait, did he just disappear like, you know, supernaturally or what? But then it was just like, oh, the shot was weird.
Yeah.
And so I don't know, but...
I don't know. But I think that we've covered pretty much all there is, and unfortunately, I think our general consent... Well, you hated it a lot more than I do. I didn't hate it. I just didn't really find it...
Give it a 1.
He gives it a 1. I'll say it's painfully average. It's a 2.5 out of 5 for me. It's not something that I would be in a rush to watch again, which is really unfortunate. But again, you know, check it out for yourself, because you never know. People like different things. You might really dig it. It's a new horror movie, you know. It'll be fun to watch in theaters. Can't go wrong really with that, but...
Just make sure someone else is paying.
I'm still hopeful that maybe chapters 2 and 3 might, you know, have a little something extra. This isn't a really good starting point for this trilogy. I'm a little scared. I'm a little disappointed. But I'm gonna stick it out. I'm gonna watch all of them and review them for you guys, even if they all suck. But yeah.
And they will.
Well, we will have to see about that, but I guess that's it for now. That was The Strangers Chapter 1. Let me know your guys' thoughts in the comments below. I already am seeing reviews, and it's pretty, there's pretty much a general consensus that people aren't digging this one, but I have seen quite a few positive reviews, so let me know your guys' thoughts.
Yeah, thank you guys for watching. Looking forward to the comments to see what everyone else thinks of this movie. See if, I'm sure it'll be overwhelmingly negative, but...
Yeah, so thank you guys again for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Hey, because you were here, because you were here.
Because you were here.
Because you were here.
Because you were here.
Because you're here. You were here or you are
because
here?
you is here.
Because you were home.
Because you were home.
That hits the spot.